Okay. Oh boy. Oh, I'm in my fuzzy warm clothes today because we had a little snow today. So anyway guys, welcome. Glad you're here, but I'm going to get right to it. Yes, this is about the paranormal that happened to me and my family years ago. This is going back to the 90s, and we had just moved into a rental home. And this is when we still had 4 kids at home. And we moved into this home, and you know how it is when you first move into a house. You know, you're tired, you get everything moved in, at the end of the day you're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness it's over. Well, there we were, you know, just kind of coming down from moving and boxes and everything everywhere. And so I was in our bedroom. I was married, like I said, so I was in our bedroom. And I was sitting out at the foot of the bed, you know, just kind of like, ugh. And my son came in. Excuse me. My son Josh came in, sat next to me on the bed. And back then, remember this was the 90s, we still had the, you know, the square box TV, the big, the heavy ones. Well, this was a smaller one though, about, you know, that size for the bedroom. And it was on the floor and it was unplugged. And remember, those TVs had the, you know, the little buttons, you know, on the front. Well, we were just sitting there talking, my son and I, and all of a sudden one of the buttons started going in and out, in and out. And I thought, oh my God, what am I seeing here? And I looked at my son and I was like, do you see that? And he was like, yeah. And I thought, okay, this can't be an electrical thing because it's not plugged in. And so we just sat there kind of stunned, and he got scared. He got up and he goes, I'm out of here. And he ran out. And so I yelled for my husband. I was telling him the button on the TV was going in and out by itself. And he goes, well, that's not possible. It's not even plugged in. I said, ask Josh. It was going in and out. So he asked him, and Josh was like, yeah, it was going in and out. I saw it. And so we didn't know what to think of that. We were like, okay, whatever, that was weird. So, you know, we went about, you know, unpacking a few things, whatever, the necessities you need, you know, to go to bed and everything. And we're laying in bed, exhausted, you know, we're both just laying back like this, like, oh my God, the day is over. And above our bed, towards the back of the wall there, remember the old lights that used to hang from the gold chain? Remember the chain and then the lights hanging on the end? Well, that was hanging up there above our bed, you know, back, not above, right above our head, but kind of back. And so we're laying like this, you know, just talking because we're exhausted, and all of a sudden that light starts to swing back and forth, back and forth. So we're laying there watching that, and I thought, okay, you know, what's going on? And then, as we lay there stunned, it went up and down, up and down. Mind you, this is hanging from a chain, and it went up and down. That's not a possible movement without somebody lifting it up and down. So we were completely shocked and stunned, not knowing what to think of that. Lily. And I was like, you know, I looked at him, and we jumped out of bed. We were so scared, we jumped out of bed, and we're standing off to the side looking at it thinking, what in the world is going on? I mean, we didn't know what to think. And we didn't want to, you know, scare the kids, so we were like, okay, well, we didn't know what to think. Plus we were so exhausted, so we just went back to bed and fell asleep. Well, the next day we were like, okay, whatever that was, you know, we don't know what that was. And days went by, and then we were laying in bed again, and we're just laying there talking, and all of a sudden the bathroom that was, you know, part of the bedroom. Well, there's your bedroom, there's your bathroom. It was a double sink bathroom, or yeah, double sink. And we're laying there, and all of a sudden the water comes on. We heard the water come on, and I looked at my husband. I was like, "Do you hear the water?" He's like, "Yeah." So he jumps out of bed. He goes and looks, and he goes, "Holy shit!" And I said, "What?" And he goes, "The water is on in both sinks. The water was on, guys, both sinks." And so he shut them off, and he came back into the bedroom, and he just stood there, and he goes, "Oh my God, there's no way that could have happened. I don't know anything that could have caused that." So again, we're freaking out. We lay back down, talking about it, thinking, what is going on? Well, while we're laying there, lo and behold, the toilet flushes. Yeah, the toilet flushed. And we thought, okay. I mean, we really felt like we were, like, just going crazy or something. That's the only way I can put it. We were like, are we seeing things? What is happening? Are we hearing things? Well, that toilet flushed. So we didn't know what to think of it all. We really didn't. And some more days passed. We had been living there for a while. And one of my other sons went, in his bedroom, there was a bathroom with a shower. Well, all of a sudden, we hear him screaming, yelling, screaming, "Mom, Dad, Mom, Dad!" So we run into the bathroom, and he had wrapped himself in the shower curtain. Literally, he was wrapped up in the shower curtain, peeking out, scared as could be. And we walk into the bathroom, and we're like, "What is wrong? What's going on?" And he was like, "Didn't you see that look, the little girl, she's right there, the little girl, she's right there." And he was freaking out. And we're looking, and like, "No, we don't see a little girl. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Oh my God, there's a little girl right there. She's staring at me. She's staring at me." We couldn't figure out we didn't see anything. So we calmed him down, got him out of the shower, got him, to get to his bed. And we were like, "If you want to come sleep with us, that's fine." And he's like, "No, no," because he was too big, I guess, for that. But he stayed in his bed. We turned the light on, and he was, just, you could see he was scared, but he didn't want to come. And we were like, "Do you want us to stay with you?" He's like, "No, I'm okay." And so we thought, okay, fine. So we were like, "If you hear anything or something, just call." So we go to bed, and lo and behold, we're laying there in bed, and he starts screaming again, "Mom, Dad, Mom, Dad." So we run back there. He's under the covers. He's in the bed under the covers with the covers up to his eyes like this, and he's shaking, just shaking. And I ran to him. I was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he goes, "Look, look, look!" And he points to the end of his bed, and we looked, and we were like, "We don't see anything." He goes, "She's sitting right there. She's sitting right there." And we said, "Who?" And he goes, "There's an old lady, and she's in a rocking chair, and she's sitting there, and she's smiling at me." And I mean, he was shaking and crying, and I thought, okay, this is not fake. So I said, "What does she look like, honey? Tell me what she looks like." And he goes, "She's a real old lady, and she's got gray hair, and it's in a big long braid." Well, that made me think of my grandmother, my mother's mother, because that's how she used to wear her hair. She had her hair was way down to her butt, really. It was always in a braid, a long braid. And so my first thought was, oh my gosh. And he goes, "She's smiling at me." And I said, "She is?" And he goes, "Yeah, she's smiling, and she's rocking back and forth." And I said, "Okay, honey, we don't see her, but does she scare you?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Okay, all right." So then we kept talking to him, and then all of a sudden he goes, "She's smiling at me again." And then all of a sudden she was gone. And he goes, "Oh, she's gone." And I said, "She is?" And he goes, "Yeah, she's gone, she's gone." So we finally calmed him down. He finally went to sleep. And this affected him I don't know if it still does, but it affected him well into his adulthood, to where he had to have a light on in his bedroom, even as an adult. Had to have a light on in the closet or somewhere in the room. He could not go to sleep without light on. That's how bad it affected him. And so again, we were like, you know, we did not know what was happening. We had, at that time, we really couldn't afford to just move again. I mean, you know, we had our 4 kids, we had already paid everything, and we just could not afford to just get up and move. So we just kept thinking, okay, this is going to pass, whatever this is, because it didn't feel evil, okay? Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's the devil, that's it. Yeah, no. It didn't feel evil. Whatever the feeling was in the house, it didn't feel evil, but you could sense there was something there. You could just sense it. And I thought, okay, this is weird. And then the dogs that we had at the time, they would just stop and stare. Just stop and stare like that. And they wouldn't move. They'd just stop and stare, and I was like, okay, look at the dogs. And they would let out like a little growl, you know, kind of like a "Rrr." But then they'd stop. And then all of a sudden they just walk off like nothing. And I thought, okay, that's another weird thing. So these kind of, you know, strange things kept happening. Like I remember one time my husband put his keys down on the kitchen table. We had a little table right off of the kitchen. And he put his keys down, and then a little while later he was going to run to the store, and he's like, where are my keys? And I like, they were on the table. The kids weren't anywhere around it or anything, and I said, oh, well, I saw you put them there, and he goes, I know I did. And we were looking all over the place, couldn't find them. Well, finally we found them, and they were on the floor by the door. So we were like, how in the world did they get there? It was so strange. So these things continued to happen, and then one night, my 2 boys, wanted to have friends over for a sleepover. So all the kids came, and they were all sleeping in the living room, you know, and their sleeping bags or on the couches, what have you. And we had a skylight in the living room. And everybody goes to bed. No, guys, not now. Not now. No. Sorry. You know what? I'm going to have to... I can't believe this. No. No. So we went to bed. The kids were in bed. You know, or, well, you know, when you have a sleepover, they're in there talking and laughing, what have you. And so we were just in bed. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, after they fell asleep and everything, in the middle of the night, we hear them all screaming and yelling. Screaming and yelling, so we run out there, and those kids were literally shaking. I mean, they were shaking and crying. And we were like, what is going on? What happened? And one of the little boys that was there, he said, he points to the skylight, and he goes, it came from there, it came from there. And we were like, what came from there? And he goes, this white thing, it came through there, it came through that light thing. And we were like, what do you mean, what came through there? And he says, it was a white thing, shaped kind of like this. And then we looked at the other kids, and they were all just shaking with their sleeping bags or blankets, you know, like this. They were just like, their eyes bugging out. And my husband and I, we were like, oh my God, what scared them? And he's looking at the, you know, the skylight. We couldn't see anything, of course. And then one of the little boys, okay, my son Josh was in there. And one of the other little boys said, he was shaking, he goes, it had like a little glass tube with some green stuff in it. There's some green stuff in it. And it dropped a few drops on Josh's head. We watched it, it dropped a couple drops on Josh's head. And I said, green stuff? And he goes, yeah, it was in the tube, it was like a tube or something. And so we went to check Josh's head. Well, there was nothing on his head. And we said, well, there's nothing on his head, guys. And they were like, we saw it, we saw it, we saw it. And they were crying and crying. And I said, well, what happened to the white thing? And they said, it went back out the skylight after it dropped the drops on Josh. Well, they were so scared, they all wanted to go home. So there we were calling parents at, what, 2:30 in the morning, that they had to come get their kids. And when they came to get them, we were like, we're so sorry, we don't know what happened. We don't know what scared them. You know, that's not what you want to happen when, you know, other people's kids come over. So they all left. Well, guess what? They never would come back into the house again. They'd come to play outside, but the kids would never go back into our house, which was heartbreaking. You know, it was like, God, my kids' friends won't come into the house. And so we were just so lost, thinking, what is going on? And then one day, I picked up my son Nathan. He was in kindergarten then. And I picked him up from school, came home, and as you walked into our front door, right to the right was a dining room, and then right past that, there's a wall, right past that was the kitchen, and I had a little table off the kitchen. Well, Nathan was sitting at the kitchen table, and all of a sudden, from the, you know, the door was like, here's the door, you walk in, there's the table. Well, I was looking at him because he sat at the table, and I realized I saw a shadow, and I thought, what the heck? So I looked behind me, and right at the door is this man. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't lock the door behind me, oh my God, oh my God. So I turned around and I walked over and I latched it real quick. It was a screen door. And I looked at him and I said, can I help you? And he had long, like to the shoulder, light brown hair, very blue, huge blue eyes. I mean, big blue eyes. And he tilted his head and he just looked at me, and I looked at him. I said, can I help you? And he just goes like this, to look past my shoulder. He looked at my son Nathan sitting at the table, and he goes, no, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I looked at him, I said, excuse me? And he just kind of went like that, and he smiled. And what you need to understand is, okay, here's the door. All right, here's the door. Well, right to the left of the door was some windows with curtains. Well, he stood there and just kind of smiled and stared at me. And as weird as it may sound, it was almost like he had this kind of glowy thing about him. And I got scared. I thought, I'm alone here with my little boy. What do I do? So I thought, I'm just slamming the door. So I just said, I'm sorry. And I slammed the door and pulled the curtain right away. He was gone. There. And you have to understand, from our front door to the driveway, there was this long walkway that you had to go through to get to the street. As soon as I shut that door and went like that with the curtain to look at him, he was gone. And I looked over the whole yard area. There was no way anybody could move in a split second and just be gone from the whole yard. So I was like, oh my God, this man is gone. And I called my husband. I was like, I told him what happened. He's like, you got to be kidding. I said, no. I said, I looked at him, I talked to him, and then when I shut the door, I pulled it and he was gone. Pulled that curtain, he was gone. And he was like, oh my God, what is going on in that house? And I said, I don't know. I said, but he stared at Nathan and smiled. He just kind of like that. And he goes, it'll be okay. It's all going to be okay. And that's when I shut the door, because I thought, I don't know if this is a psycho or what, you know, what's going on. So after that, we started to think maybe we should move. Maybe we got to figure something out. And little things would just continue to happen, just odd little things like one night when I was in the kitchen. The kitchen had a counter to where you could look into another part of the house. And I was in the kitchen, and I heard movement. And I thought it was one of the kids or my husband, and I was like, who is that? What are you guys doing? And then I looked up, and I didn't see anybody. And I thought, what did I just hear? Because I heard movement. And I yelled for the kids, and they were all in their bedrooms. My husband was in the bathroom. And I thought, I just heard movement. I heard movement. And so when my husband came out, I told him, and he says, this is too weird. This is too many things. There is something in this house. And so we were standing there talking, and as we were talking, one which one was, I can't remember, I think it was Elliot. Yeah, he came out and he goes, there's something in my room. And we said, what do you mean? And he goes, there's something in my room. So we go into the room and he points and he goes, there's something over there. And we said, what is the something? And he goes, I don't know, there's something there. And then the dogs came in and started barking. They started looking at the corner of the room and started barking. And I thought, oh my God. So guys, I'm telling you, this stuff truly happened. I would never make stuff up because I see nothing to gain in that. I don't believe in lying about stuff like that because so many people do. They'll make up all kinds of stories. I have no reason to, and this was a long time ago. And so we started thinking, okay, there's something strange going on that's beyond anything we can comprehend or figure out. And so one night we were sitting out on the driveway. The cars were parked in the driveway, and we were sitting there, and it was nighttime, and my husband and I were just looking up at the sky, thinking, what are we doing? What's going on? What's happening? Out of nowhere, guys, this is the honest to goodness truth. As we're looking up at the night sky, we see what had to have been hundreds, I'm talking hundreds of round, white, not even like a light, like a bright light, like white glowing things in a perfect triangle. Perfect. It was massive. We laid back on the car and we're looking at it like this, and he goes, oh my God in heaven, what is that? And I said, I don't know. And we just sat there watching him. It was a huge triangle of white, round, not bright light, but like glowing, going across the sky. And we were just laying on the car, the hood of the car, thinking, what is happening? What is happening to us, or what's going on? We got scared and we ran into the house. And we were both kind of shaking after what we saw. And he was like, this can't be. What is happening in our world, you know? And so we just kind of tried to go on with our life, knowing we really couldn't afford to move at that time. And one day, we were out in the front yard just doing a little yard work. And this little girl comes over. And she was one of the neighbor girls. And she walks up to us. She was a real sweet little girl. And she looks at us and she goes, and I looked at her and I was like, hi honey, who are you? And she gave me her name. And she says, I just wanted to tell you something. And we were like, oh yeah, what's that? And she said, my grandma can't believe that you've lived in this house this long. And I looked at her and I said, what do you mean? It's a rental. And she goes, no. And we're talking to a little girl about 9 years old. And she goes, no, everybody leaves after a few weeks. Nobody ever stays. And I said, they don't? And she said, no. She goes, don't you know the house is haunted? And you know, my eyes just went, what? And my husband looks at me and we looked at her, you know, and she goes, it's a haunted house. Nobody ever stays there. She goes, sometimes they're there one day and then the next day they're gone. She goes, I guess they leave during the night or something. And she goes, but then they're gone. And I said, oh my God. I looked at her, I said, are you serious? And she goes, no one has ever stayed longer than 3 weeks. She goes, my grandma can't believe you've been here for months. And I said, oh, okay. And so one day I thought, I'm going to see what her grandma herself says. So I went to talk to her and she looked at me and she said, people have run out of that house in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day. We have watched them. They go get a truck, they come, they load up their stuff, they're gone. She goes, we have watched it happen. I was like, oh my God. And she says, you are in a true haunted house. She goes, I would get out if I were you. Nobody has known what that is. And so we finished talking to her, which shocked us, and then we went home. And I told my husband, I said, this is too much. This is way too much. And so we talked about it, and that night we were laying in bed trying to figure out what to do, how we were going to do this. And while we were laying there, I mean, we're just laying in bed, lying in bed, the water went on in the bathroom, the toilet flushed, and the light swung. And guys, I am telling you, you could just sense the energy and the presence. And after that, we were like, we're done. We have to get out of here. And we did. We decided to move. And while we were packing things to move, I'm not lying to you, there would be like a glass on a table or something would fall off and break. And things would drop and break. And my husband's like, it's like something is mad. And the water would turn back on. The dogs would be barking. Things, we couldn't find things. It just didn't stop, guys. This is the honest to goodness truth. And so the last night we were there, I told him, I said, I don't know what this is, but I don't sense evil. And he goes, I don't sense evil either. It's just like something is trying to get our attention. So I lay there and I said, look, whatever you are, I'm sorry that you're going through this. I don't know, are you stuck here? Is there any way? I said, I don't know. They say go to the light, or they say, you know, look for a way to go. And I was telling whatever it was, go, see if you can find some place to go. And my husband did the same thing. And while we were lying in bed, as we said that, all of a sudden the light in the bathroom goes on. The light in the bathroom goes on, and he looked over, because the bathroom was to the left of our bed. He looked over, and I looked over, and I said, it's okay. I said, you can go now, you can go. And instead, the water came on again, and then we heard something in the kitchen. And we hadn't heard anything in the kitchen like that. And it sounded like somebody was cooking with pans. Yeah, guys, it sounded like somebody was cooking with pans. Well, of course, we walk out there. The kids are in bed. It sounded like somebody cooking with pans. So, guys, I am telling you, we were terrified. We were so scared. We thought, whatever this is, it has convinced me that there is something past this human form. I believe it in my heart because we experience it. There is something past this human form. I don't know if that was a human spirit. I don't know what it was, but it had the ability to move things, turn things on and off. And then the little girl that my son saw, the old lady, I mean, these things were real. These things happened, and that slumber party, the screaming, and if you could have seen those kids just, we want to go home, we want to go home, please call our parents. I mean, they were just terrified. And then the fact that they would not come back into the house, I knew this was for real. This was for real. So guys, I don't know what it is, but there's something past this. There's something past it. And I experienced it. It's not some fairy tale story that I just made up. This was real. So I just wanted to share that with you because everybody wonders what happens when we die. Nobody knows. You only know what you believe or you've been taught or whatever. But nobody knows. Nobody really knows what happens when we die. Everybody has their different beliefs. But we know that we experienced some real ghost activity, spirit activity, whatever you want to call it. We experienced it. And I hope I never experience anything to that degree again because it was terrifying. So anyway, guys, I will talk to you later, and you all have a wonderful day or night whenever you watch this. Take care, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you so, so very much. You have no idea how much I appreciate you being here. So you guys take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Okay, baby, down you go. All right. Yeah.